Sydney, welcome back to my channel. You know, there are a couple topics that I have totally resisted talking about up until this point. Not because I don't care, but because it's a little bit like opening Pandora's box. Or like opening the floodgates. You know, you can just pick whichever idiom you like best. The point is, there are just particular topics that don't go down so well. And yet, Sydney, you're happy to talk about feminism and men's rights and transgender athletes. Okay. I also know that topics like climate change aren't particularly sexy. Unless, of course, you're this guy.
Oh, I saw that.
It is pretty sexy.
I'm just kidding. Still not sexy. But as the discussion of climate change keeps hurtling along,
harsh.
I'm now beginning to have a massive problem with the way the kids are being caught up in all of this. Specifically, the way that they're being used as vessels to promote this agenda. And additionally, how adults and teachers and politicians have taken to scaring them into action by telling them that the world is going to end. And they're going to be breathing like sulfur or whatever. I mean, real talk,
Or
I can
whatever.
only assume that's what they're telling them if this is how they're acting out in public.
We are on the outskirts of the biggest catastrophe humanity has ever faced, and our government is doing nothing.
I'm so concerned with the fact that if they're not going to change anything, then what's going to happen to humankind?
I'm one of the kids of the future, and I want to have a safer climate when I'm a grown-up.
I'm here today
Aw.
because I feel like
What
it's
an evil
crucial
little
that we act
kid.
now because, like, we've ruined the planet so much in, like, the short amount of time, like, in such a short amount of time, and we don't seem to be slowing down.
Scaring kids is super uncool, and if I was a parent, which I'm clearly not, I would be super unimpressed. But politics has a very long history of using emotion in...
So, I mean, there's a little bit to unpack there. I think I get what she's trying to say.
Sometimes I wonder if she is being sarcastic.
I don't think so, man. I really don't. I mean, I like how she does the whole, like, the Office thing with Jim where she, like, looks up to the corner and says something funny, like, or pithy, like, that's fun and kind of cute or whatever, but, like, have you ever, like, sat down and watched, you know, like, an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson or some kind of environmentalist? Like, by the end of it, I feel like one of those kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're at the huge rallies with hundreds of people. Like, of course, they're fucking, like, they're going, and you get them in front of a microphone, they're nervous. They're in front of a bunch of people. They're all fucking hyped up about whatever cause it is. Like, you know, it kind of makes sense. The behavior seems a little bit appropriate.
But,
it's not
I
like
mean,
they're just
the-
sitting in their
the
living room
sentiment-
crying and freaking out about, like, oh my god, the world's gonna end. Like,
And you know what? Honestly, even if they were, I mean,
I don't know.
welcome back to Soul Mechanics.
Ah,
everybody.
sorry.
This is part 3B here. We are reacting to, what's her name?
Sydney Watson.
Sydney Watson, who is usually doing, for the most part, anti-extremist feminist shit, anti-feminist in general, I guess.
Anti-left wing.
And anti-left wing,
Stuff.
and so she's apparently like a righty conservative, whatever.
Somebody's gonna
again, the
come
political
knocking down
terms.
her door for take her guns any minute now.
I'm not big on the political terms, and she does seem a little kooky, a little out there with that shit. Obviously, the political shit we'll have to get into
Nah, we don't do that here.
later in another
We won't
time,
do
but
that here.
um,
She sounds like she kind of has an accent. I wonder if she's not even in America talking about all these
No,
American
she's not.
issues. I'm curious
I don't
about
think she is,
that.
no.
So
But,
that's a little weird, but
right.
okay.
When I say we'll get to politics, I mean we'll get to the politics of politics. We're not going to talk about the actual political stances and agendas, because that's a facade. It's a ridiculous nightmare that we don't want to have to be embroiled in or deal with. We just would like
A
to kind of
sea
do away
of-
with it.
A sea of puppets.
But the politics of politics, that is to say the actual agenda behind politics itself, that's something we are going to get into deeply here, which is the nature of our psychological environment, our environmental crisis. Now, I want to know, she's going to, what was the opening thing that,
that the subject makes her more uncomfortable than anything she's ever talked about.
That's one thing,
This
and of
makes
course
me
it
by
does.
far the most uncomfortable.
Yes, of course it does, and there's a few reasons for that, Sydney, madam. Of course, she's
Well,
going to get a link to this.
She's obviously not stupid. She even said, she's like, this is gonna open the floodgates, basically. Right. So she's not dumb. I mean, I'll give her that.
It's making you uncomfortable, likely because you're playing politics here with this, and I mean, you got to be making some of this shit up. You can't honestly be thinking this way, and so I mean, there's that.
I think you underestimate the way that people jump in. They bandwagon on top of bandwagons.
You're bandwagoning. You know that you're bandwagoning. You know that you're jumping on the Greta Thunberg train, making use of this Greta Thunberg effect, which I think is the name of the video.
Yep.
The Greta Thunberg effect.
And why children in politics is not okay.
Right.
For children to have opinions on rules and regulations that control their everyday lives.
Right. You're not a parent, and I'm not a parent, but I have had many students. I've looked after many children. I in fact helped Sweetie Cheeks look after her child as best I can. We care. I have an idea as to what it might be like to raise children. She is a parent. And I think we can both say mutually that, you have a better appreciation and sort of an empathic consideration for long-term investments, especially in people and how they're going to be feeling, how their lives are going to be maneuvering. Everybody that I deal with on the initiative, absolutely. I'm concerned about how their lives are going to go and how that's going to play out because I genuinely care about them. If you don't really have that kind of caring in play,
your perspective is a little bit smaller, which there's nothing wrong with that. To have any kind of perspective is valuable, but when you are dealing with kids a lot, then you tend to, you have that bird's eye view type perspective where you're thinking years down the road and generations, literal generations ahead.
And where it comes to the initiative and our workings, our dealings, we are thinking long term.
Like evolutionary type shit.
Yeah, these kids are saying that we've ruined the planet for the most part in a relatively short span of time. Now, they're not talking about your lifetime, Sydney. The human race has not been here exceptionally long insofar as regards, relatively speaking, to the remainder of the planet. We've been here a very short span of time, and we have managed to fuck it up irreparably already. Like, there are things we've done that we cannot turn around, even if we put the brakes on it right here and now. So, I'm thinking that...
Yeah, the science is pretty much there, I would say.
Yeah, this is something that irks me is when I talk to people.
The science is bullshit and that makes no difference and don't worry about it, it's all good, which is what I've heard from a lot of people that are mad about about Greta Thunberg. That's basically their second point is like, well, it's not going to be that bad. Like, that's basically, they're like, she sucks, I'm pissed off because everyone is being too passionate about this and it's really not going to be that bad, like as if they know.
It might not be that bad for you, say, in the next couple of years or so.
Or even 10,
but 15. It is getting bad. Every passing year it's getting a little bit worse, and this is something that's noticeable in your everyday experience. You don't need science to back it up.
But like just now, when you said that, the first thing that popped into my head was my grandkids. Like, what if my daughter has kids? Yeah. What is that going to be like for them? And there's really no way to tell. I don't know. I like to be optimistic and hope that they will have a wonderful world to live in, obviously, but I don't know. It could look like anything at this point.
It could, and it could be due to various other factors, although the initiative intends to address all of the factors that come into play. We're dealing again with the psychological environment, which is going to clear up the biological or physical environment.
Yeah, Earth as a as an organism theory. I like that one.
But okay, we have. Her daughter is growing up. We're going to be responsible for her growing up. Our niece is getting a little older now. We're responsible for her life for the most part. My most recent student is pregnant at the moment. She's going to have a child that's going to be growing up, and we're frankly concerned for the state of affairs, not merely as regard to climate change or what have you, because honestly, I think that, as the imperative has been addressing, that this is a matter of what amounts to symptomatic. It's symptomatic of a progression. However, if we do not get our shit together and manage it appropriately, then
it's
it
gonna be
will
bad.
spiral out of control.
You can't like go swimming in Lake Erie anymore. Like, we live in Ohio, and a lake is a big part of where we live. And I mean, I remember when I was little, just going to Huntington Beach with my grandparents and my brothers and sisters and just jumping right in that bitch. Like, you can't do that now because they like come out on the news and they're like, hey, there's E. coli in the water or whatever, so don't go in there. Like, stuff has been happening for a while. It doesn't affect your tiny little daily life where you wake up and go to work and come home and eat dinner and go to bed. Like, that's it, you know? It's bigger than that. And another thing is that if climate change, let's use the trigger word here, let's trigger everybody. Climate change. Let's make everyone uncomfortable with that trigger word. You could just take that whole idea and that word and just fuck it off out of the conversation, and we still have a lot of work to do without that. Like, there is so many other things that are, you know, there's islands of garbage floating around and sea life that's filled with microplastics, and just to name a couple. But like, you could take the whole climate change thing completely out of the conversation and there's still a lot to do. So why is it bad to even try, is my question.
Yeah, and no, but I'd like to say there's a few things that I'd like to hit before it even pops up. Is yeah, we're smoking cigarettes, and people are, I know people are going to say some shit. They've already said this to me before, like, well, that they don't even care enough to stop smoking cigarettes, or how are they going to talk about turning things around and taking care of things when they don't smoke? First of all, we're not perfect, and we're not asking you to, like, stop using your cell phone, although...
we're not asking anybody to do anything.
Right,
we're just talking.
We're not asking you to...
You don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
Well, when we speak to making changes, we're not asking anybody to make any serious changes in their personal lives as it stands, and we're not saying that anything you're doing is necessarily wrong.
No, it's the whole fear of judgment thing. Everybody, if I'm a bad person now because you're not a bad person. Just because we suggest that maybe some things need to change,
right.
You know, you can use straws, I guess. Like, that doesn't make you evil. I use them every once in a while. Like, it's...
Firstly, in our personal lives, and as regards, you know, what values we put into play insofar as the implications about our personal lives, we all have work to do. We all need to clear up some shit. Nobody's saying that anybody is doing anything wrong or that anything needs to immediately change, you know, dramatically. But where it comes to children, I mean, we're going to say, like she said, what did she say? She said, using children to push this political agenda, to push this agenda. What is the agenda?
It's the far radical left agenda that she disagrees with, so all the people in the blue hats are her enemy, basically.
Try cleaning up the environment, try being better to the planet. Is that this agenda that we're pushing? Yeah, that's a good agenda.
Yeah,
and honestly, if the kids are going to be scared about it, good.
So what if there is a little kid that isn't being indoctrinated by their environmentalist parents, and they just happen to stumble across, like I said, like a Neil deGrasse Tyson interview or something, and they start kind of getting passionate about the environment and telling, you know, Mom, you shouldn't use straws anymore. Like, incrementally, over time, you know, some little kid somewhere becomes extremely passionate about the environment. Does that mean that they're brainwashed and indoctrinated and they're not allowed to have opinions because they're too young, and they're just being used, and it's to promote this agenda, so that some liberals can make money, like...
Let's say maybe these kids don't wind up making the same kinds of mistakes that we did. Maybe they actually do learn lessons from our mistakes. I mean, we're talking about a long-term process here, and we're talking about we're talking about the gamble. The stakes are way too high to fuck around with it and be like, well, my politics disagree with it, so it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And we do have science to back it up, saying that this is happening, that has been happening for a long while. I run into people every
It turns into
day.
a conspiracy at
Right.
some
I run into
point
people
or
every
another.
day who are going to tell me that it's a hoax.
Yeah.
That climate change is a
course.
hoax. But it's like, dude, it's getting hotter every passing summer. I mean, it's October right now, and we haven't seen, you know,
It was
color
93
change.
the other day.
It was 93 the other day, hottest day of the year.
Tuesday.
And we haven't seen even any change in the trees or what have you. I haven't felt like Shitsville depressed for I should have been like really down in the
Well,
dumps
it was
wanting to
sunny
hang
today. You got
myself
your
for like
vitamin D.
a few weeks now.
You got your vitamin D.
I should have been feeling like shit. I mean, I feel when the weather changes. I have close tie to nature.
You have SAD, seasonal affective disorder.
For real.
My mom does.
And if the kids are going to be scared about it, concerned about it, good. And if the kids are going to step up and do something about it,
Why is
fucking
that
great.
bad? Yeah, why
because
is that
where
bad?
Greta Thunberg steps up and she says, "How dare you lay this burden at our feet?" Fucking A, right? How dare we? I mean, we didn't do it, our generation necessarily, but for generations
Oh
and
no!
generations
Yes,
beforehand.
we don't get to.
Yeah, we don't get a
We
pass.
don't get to walk out on that conversation.
We didn't.
contributed to it in
We
a major
contributed
way.
to it for sure. Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, even the littlest things, like using fucking straws, like it all just shitstorms.
Well,
All
I'm
the
saying-
little things
I'm saying it
pile
wasn't-
on.
It wasn't necessarily like our generation. It's been generations and generations
Of
leading
people
up to
that
now.
didn't know, though, I think,
And,
which is kind of part of the problem is that
Well,
people didn't
then
know.
they-
So
they're-
now we're telling the younger kids, and that means that we're just, they're just puppets, and they shouldn't know any
Right.
of that
And
information.
but there was a long while where we did know. We have known for
Yeah.
over a decade now. We've known.
But new stuff pops up all the time, and the science isn't consistent because science isn't supposed to be
and
consistent.
the problem is speaking directly to addiction. I think it's going to be our addiction to the political systems we have, our addiction to money, our addiction to the conditioning we've been, exposed to.
And I'd like to bring up something else too that I've noticed, that young kids, I mean, again, you have to judge it on an individual basis. So you can't really blanket statement and say all kid activists are just being used and indoctrinated. I'm sure some of them probably are. Kids tend to parrot what their parents think, what their parents feel, what kind of politics and regarding,
Well, yeah, but that's just the thing, is
economics
that
and
this isn't
commercial
necessarily
use and
what
that
their
kind of
parents
things.
feel, or likely their parents don't, and that's why we have this huge disagreement
I
with
don't
the
know.
adults saying that the kids are brainwashed, that they're
And they
part
don't
of
know
a
what they're
political
talking
agenda,
about.
because they don't want to give up the way of life
I don't
that
know,
they've
there's a
become
lot
so
of-
accustomed to. They don't want to make the heavy changes, make the hard decisions. They don't want to
I think there's a lot of
acknowledge.
people that are willing to do that. There's a lot of environmental
There's a lot of
activists,
people who are willing.
adults.
But for the most part, the majority of people that are running the show, at least here, are entirely unwilling to even be accepting of it, let alone put
Well,
forth
it's
the
'cause
effort
everybody
that's
that-
necessary to make a difference.
All the people that are, quote, running the show, as you say, making decisions for us and controlling, things like money and the environment, are all like 90-year-old dudes. So
Yeah, and they're all, making money that is, again, it's going to come back to what is our we have to alter our consideration, and this is a long-term factor that we can make a difference in right here and now, that we all need to be making a difference in, that applies to every community, that applies to every issue. We need to alter our perspective or perception of what we believe is valuable and why, because money is not.
yeah, well, you introduce profit motive into any area of life or any issue, and it all of a sudden gets corrupt. So it's
Exactly.
kind of a pattern. And I'm not one of those like anti-capitalist people. I think that capitalism in and of itself is not evil or inherently evil. It just means that competition, it's healthy competition. Capitalism is supposed to be healthy competition. What we have is tricky, sneaky monopolies that undermine true capitalism, and so the competition goes out the window. And
we
instead
have
of
scammers and shit. And
yes,
that's,
instead of prices going down and quality going up, it's the other way around.
that's
So
what introduces
we don't have
the
a
corruption.
true capitalism. It's
See,
a profit motive that controls.
Oh, you don't know. I made a video, for anybody that's not caught up, we'll catch up real quick. I made the video responding to the end of Abaslesiel's video, which I wanted you to give your opinion on him with the Democratic thing, fighting for the Democratic shit. Yeah. I spoke on behalf of Sweetie Cheeks. I spoke on behalf of you, and I said what you had, initially what your reaction had been. And I did state, speaking to, well, it turns out that something that our operator pulled up was that there were these videos emerging in the vegan community, vegan activist community, that were suggesting that Abaslesio was just using the veganism movement to profit, to make money, and he was asking people to contribute. What do you mean?
So if I'm a rando vegan, I'm gonna come across this guy's YouTube page. I'm like, yeah, I gotta get him money because he's vegan and so am I. Like, does that happen? Is that a thing?
Actually, it does.
I'm vegan.
he asked people. He asked people to
Venmo me, bitch. That is weird.
And then this is why I said we'll never ask people to donate to us. If
No,
the channel gets
that's
monetized, it's fine. But
ridiculous.
we'll never ask people to donate to us because, as I stated in that video, introducing that factor corrupts the system.
Absolutely.
Just basically, and it's not. Which I said that I didn't tell her that. She didn't even know we made the video yet. She knew that. It's common sense. But it's not currency in and of itself that's corrupt. It's this sneaky, scamming bullshit, this political bullshit that makes it corrupt, that applies that aspect to the value of it. Currency itself is fine.
If we were to clean slate, start over tomorrow with, this huge population that we have and, clean slate capitalism in our economy or whatever, like, it would probably be awesome because you see it in, like, little small towns and stuff that don't have the giant Walmarts to put all the other stores out of business, and they have, multiple, when businesses compete, that forces the quality to go up, the cost to go down, and it's better for everybody all around. And that's great. That's what we want to see in big communities, little communities, whatever it is. But then you get, the superstores like Walmart and stuff. So there's little things that are introduced, and it stems from basically the profit motive. And I won't say that all profit motive is greed. I don't think that that's true at all. I certainly have some kind of profit motive because I want to put food on my table and, like, pay my bills or whatever. That's not greed. That's just wanting to survive. And I think that's where it starts for a lot of people. But the bigwig dudes that are flying around on jets and shit, like, that's straight up greed. Did you hear that interview a long time ago with that evangelical priest guy that said that he had a private jet because Jesus wanted him to have a private jet, and then he got a bigger one because God told him that he needs to be able to go farther on a tank of gas in your jet. I don't know how that works, but, like, he's like, God told me I gotta get a jet, man, because it's gonna help everybody. Yeah, people ate that shit up. Like, are you kidding me?
Anybody beneath him in the clergy is gonna say God told me something, and they're gonna be called a wacko and kicked out of the church. Like, you're not allowed to speak on behalf of God. In case anybody
a lot of people do.
In the church, we have prophets who wrote the Bible, and then if you claim to be any kind of a prophet, now that's, at least with the Jehovah's Witnesses, when I used to study with them, they used to say that to me. I used to tell them, I could write for your magazine. I was interested in it. I was like, I could write theology articles for your magazine, asking questions, raising topics. And
we don't want people asking questions. That's not appropriate in religion.
The dude said to me that the prophets who wrote the Bible, they are the prophets, the inspired word of God. You cannot...
So you can't ever be inspired by God or anybody else in their church or whatever?
That's what pissed me off about the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Of course. I mean, that's always going to be a thing with, organized religion.
That began to piss me off. I didn't get really pissed off until Jeff died with religion, and then that's when I turned on religion. That was the corruptive element.
I don't know Jeff. Oh. Jeff?
Jeff.
Oh, I do know Jeff. Gosh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Pour one out for my homie.
So, We had a woman join recently. She spotcast me with a video that's I already told this story in another video, but she spotcast me with a music video by Blind Melon that got me to get this other YouTuber dude into the collective, which that works out, by the way. That happened. She was asking for help spreading word on a fundraiser she's doing for a friend of hers who's going blind to get a magnifying glass.
And a dog.
Mm.
Get a dog, dude.
So
They're expensive, though.
I think that what happens there really with the profit motive is that you get enough money maybe to survive, and then somehow society or whomever you're dealing with, especially the rich people you come across, are going to convince you that you need more to survive.
So
it's like,
is there
you need an extra 2 houses.
Right. Is there that kind of profit motive, kind of taking hold in the environmental industry? Because if anything, I would say that it's the big businesses more than just the activists that are out on the street, right? These people that go out and picketing and protesting and stuff, environmental activists, talking in their megaphone or whatever, are they corrupt with profit motive, or is it, the big companies that are coming into a new age of industry for environmental companies and businesses? Because I think it's ludicrous to suggest that, just rando everyday Joe activists are involved in some kind of conspiracy. I don't know. But if you translate that into, like, big businesses, when you're talking about, like, fossil fuels and, maybe tech companies are kind of related in a weird way, and, like, solar panel manufacturers and that kind of stuff, like, I could see that kind of going out of control, just like it did with all the other industries.
Right, but are they profiting because nobody's really investing in that shit big time? A and
I
B,
think people are investing in that.
What we would really want is for people to start investing in that.
It would be meant to take the place of older industries that do more harm than anything else, and there's a lot
take
that
that
goes
out of the
into
equation.
that,
Get rid of the fossil fuel bullshit. Stop fucking jacking other people's countries to steal their oil and starting wars that we'll never get out of. Just do it fucking and heroin and no, heroin doesn't apply to environmentally. It's part of the environment that we're speaking to. The psychological environment, the environment of our reality. So the climate change thing, that's technically kind of a small issue. In fact, climate change will clear itself up if we can manage to clear up the actual problems we have, which is in the politics. It's in the this corruption with the currency.
Yeah, take out the fucking trash.
Yeah.
But until that happens, apparently kids should not have anything to say about environmental issues ever.
Right.
So.
Campaigns to facilitate social change, and using children to do it. Take this ad, for example, from the 1960s.
Oh, this is where we're speaking to, this is where we're speaking to World War II and to, speaking to the Nazis having used children in their propaganda, I guess, which is a big value.
What does that have to do? She's pulling videos from the 60s to illustrate a point about something that happened last month?
Yeah, because the Nazis used children in their propaganda films, apparently children stepping up now on a political issue
is a Nazi thing.
Yeah, and even though, what we have really ultimately in this actual realistic environment is kids going apeshit about their politics all day long, every day, and we back that. We back the gender crisis. We back...
Yeah, that's politics. That falls under the category, I would say.
Yeah.
For sure.
We back this terminology crisis.
I can't believe this. An ad from the 60s is supposed to illustrate a point. With the invention and the development of the internet and social media, younger kids have a worldwide reach with their voices and opinions and anger and happiness and everything. So it would only stand to reason that would be more abundant and apparent in our everyday lives, and especially with political issues and different kinds of things like that. What? This is a commercial from the 60s? Let's see it.
Sure.
4, 5, 7, 6,
You missed 6, dumbass.
8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And that's not even really
These are the
using.
stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark, we must either love each other, or we must die.
And
Vote
for
President
God's
Johnson
sake,
on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to...
Vote for President Johnson.
so let's
I
try
fail
to
to see the
avert.
relevance.
Hey, we're there, by showing a child in this, because I mean, obviously, our children are what we actually give a fuck about. Where it comes to the future, we're using children for a political campaign. This is obviously, this is a political campaign for President Johnson, but essentially, it's kind of suggesting we should love each other and avert nuclear crisis. So there's something wrong with that now too. And I mean, dude,
You're right. That sucks.
Yeah,
God,
that's-
evil. No, I can see your point though, but it is kind of a little bit shady to use the fear of imminent, destruction just so you can become president.
Yeah.
That's shady. Absolutely, that's shady. But
this isn't about somebody becoming president. Like, who's running for
we
office?
still have to avert the imminent destruction no
Yeah.
matter who's the president, right?
Yeah, we have to avert the imminent destruction. And, like, I'd really like to address where people are coming up with this idea that climate change is not real and that is not happening and that there's nothing...
I don't think that's gonna...
Like,
Again, it's bandwagoners.
yeah, we have the
not gonna
plastic
change
and the
anybody's
garbage
mind.
in the fucking waters. We have the ocean acidification. We have global warming, which honestly is probably the least of our worries today. And as I've said, I believe that global warming. I believe that all of it is symptomatic
Totally.
of our condition.
How many gigantic wildfires were there this year?
Yeah.
So
And the fucking, us burning down the Amazon fucking rainforest, dude, get real.
even without the damn fire, we are destroying the Amazon rainforest.
Right, what
one
the fuck,
fucking
like, I need to raise a
square acre at
very
a
serious
time.
question here. What the fuck is wrong with you people? That you're seriously gonna be like, okay, well, let's just get rid of all these trees. I mean, we need them to breathe, but, I mean, we also need room for our cows. It's like,
I don't know,
dude,
man. I don't know.
no, and